So Jennifer Zeller and Charlie Kirk managed to spark a conversation. I really miss that saying. It used to be back in 2016. You would read a newspaper article from The Guardian that would say some of the most crazy, some of the most batshit insane take. And they were like, you know what? It's fine. Even if everything we say is completely loony and ridiculous, we sparked the conversation. So, Charlie Kirk points out that there is this individual with a nearly perfect GPA, and despite that, he wasn't just rejected by Stanford and MIT, but also by schools like Georgia Tech, Illinois, Santa Barbara, and Wisconsin. And I have seen this trend happening a lot, especially on Twitter, where you sometimes even have a TikTok video with an individual showing that they have near perfect SAT score, but due to the fact that the individual is either white or Asian, doesn't fit the diversity quota, and they claim that that is why they got denied from the prestigious institution. And this is like one of the major problems with diversity hiring. It's not the diversity hiring that's the issue, is the diversity firing. Because in order to make room for diversity, you have to get rid of some of the other people that otherwise would have gotten in. But they lack the heritage. They lack the pedigree. Here in Romania, when we do diversity, we do it based on economics. So regardless of your race, if you manage to get really good grades, but you're in a precarious economic position, then the government is willing to help you out. And there was a situation at my University of Medicine where this colleague of mine, really good chap, he got only good grades, only 8s and 9. His parents passed away in a car crash. I mean, disastrous, right? Like, imagine you're at university and all of a sudden you find out that both your parents are dead. So normally he would not be able to continue, but the government gave him a scholarship. And the scholarship is contingent on the student maintaining good grades overall. So the moment you start getting bad grades is the moment where you lose that scholarship. And this is important because most of the time the poor kids actually study more than the rich kids. And of course, it's contingent on the fact that if you don't get good grades, then you lose your place at the university and you lose your chance in life. Meanwhile, rich kids, they're like, okay, well, if I fail this year, mommy and daddy will be upset, but they will pay for another year. So that was my personal observation. Rich kids studied less. They went out partying more, went out clubbing more. They could afford it. Meanwhile, kids that were from a more impoverished background, they studied harder. This doesn't mean that we don't actually have ethnical-based diversity. I think like any university here has a couple of seats for people of Roma ethnicity, but they're definitely not as numerous and as high percentage as the ones in the United States. So I do think the Romanian system is better. But what Jennifer Zeller likes to say is also interesting. She says that the trades need tons of workers. Many of these jobs can lead to long-term lucrative careers, and that the trades are not promoted by high school like colleges. This is a difficult conversation because on one hand she is right, especially here. I think it was since the fall of communism, and even before that, the whole idea was that you go to a university in order to avoid doing grunt work, right? So if you don't want to end up breaking your back on a construction site or working in the cold and in the rain, then you need to learn a book. That was the mentality that was promoted here, and then I found out that it's the same mentality that's promoted in the West. People go to universities to avoid being working class, because I guess working class is now considered to be something icky. And due to that, you now have a high demand for working class people, because the educated classes have been super saturated. So if you're a truck driver, like for example during COVID, I knew truck drivers from California that were making $6,000 a month, and meanwhile, people that were not working class, they had to stay home, stay safe, and they were making only what the government was giving them while their businesses were shut down. So yeah, no, like being working class is definitely something that can earn a living. Unfortunately, however, it does not bring prestige. And the reality is that you cannot have a society without truckers, but you can have a society without lawyers and HR ladies and art students. But for some reason, the reality does dictate that the HR lady and the art student has more prestige than the trucker. You will not find a single statue of a trucker. Like, maybe you will, I don't know, but like I have never seen one. However, you will find statues of some gender study university professor. And if you look at it from a cultural standpoint, if you're a right-winger, you need to encourage people to go to universities and get the prestige so that they then can push your ideology. Because at the end of the day, it's important for people to, you know, have money and have a living. But if you're an activist for right-wing thought, then you want people to become journalists, you want people to get into prestigious positions so that they can then advocate your way of living. Because, well, I assume that you believe that the way of living as a right-winger is more fulfilling and better off than living as a left-leaning individual. Because that's why you're a right-wing activist, right? So, yeah, this is why people are upset on Jennifer Zeller. Because technically she is right. Yeah, like, if you become a trucker nowadays, if you work to become a trucker, or if you work to become a construction worker, then you are going to make more money, but you're not going to have any of that prestige, and it's also unfair, right? Because here in the West, we do believe that people have the freedom to pursue their dreams and aspirations. So if someone has the dream and aspiration to go to Stanford, and he gets almost a perfect SAT score, and he studies hard and does everything required, but because he happens to be a heterosexual cisgender Asian man, and that doesn't work for him, and he can't change that in any way, shape, or form, then that is an unfair society. That is an injustice. And this is what people were pointing out. It's not that, well, there's no opportunity for you. There is, but most people don't like knowing that you're only going to become a trucker, and your kids are going to be truckers as well. Even if trucking is a noble profession, and, you know, it's understandably so, it's difficult to tell your son who wants to go to Harvard, like, no, son, you're not going to go to Harvard, you're going to drive the truck. Some parents are willing to have these conversations, others not, but still, it's an injustice. You know, and at the end of the day, if a father wants his son to be a trucker, that is one conversation. But if a father has no choice but to make his son a trucker, that is a different conversation, and that is what's unfair. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.